represented at Clint Murchison's and at the Cellar by John J. McCloy. John J. McCloy represents all the Rockefeller family interests. He represented the Seven Sisters, the major oil companies. He was a true Nazi. In '36 at the Berlin Olympics, Adolf Hitler's box was occupied by himself, Hermann Göring, and John J. McCloy. And after World War II, when there were 5 quick succession military governors in Germany, they were replaced by John J. McCloy for 5 years, against the straight order from Truman to allow no Nazis to enter the United States. John J. McCloy, working with Sullivan and Cromwell law firm in New York, doctored up documentation and brought in over 100 Nazis from the commercial side of the Nazi world, industrialists and so on, and farmed them out to U.S. companies. Now, at the same time, I studied with Sullivan and Cromwell. I'm the #1 person in world financing international trade. I learned my international law from Sullivan and Cromwell. Why? Because they were the only law firm in the United States that did international law at that time. And Raj Cohen, who was the guy that I learned from, ended up being on the cover of Time magazine, being the country's richest lawyer one year. He was good. Yeah. David Rockefeller was a Nazi. I'm not saying he joined the German party. It means when you look at the conspiracies that are going on and have been going on all this time, going back to the mid-30s, you'll see that when you see that there is going to be an upheaval that's being coordinated between European countries and the United States from the top political people, you're looking at it every day in the media. The person you'll find at the top of that is not a liberal, it's not a skinhead, it's not a Republican, it's not a Democrat. It's a Nazi who represents the 80 families in the world who control, the families in the world who control 80% of our resources and technologies. That's like Hitler saying that the Fourth Reich, I'm going to run the world. Okay? Mr. Kissinger was a big part of this. You look at George Soros. George Soros works for the Rothschilds. The original gathering was in 1945 when the United States sent somebody to Asia who joined in the torture sessions of the Japanese major who had been driving around with the Japanese general, taking all of the confiscated gold reserves and hard currency reserves of the countries that Japan conquered and was salting them away all over the world. In 2 years, between 45 and 47, all of those locations were found, and all the money was taken offshore into a slush fund for the CIA, which started growth and is growth. It's the largest drug company in the world today. And I've been in the drug war, I've been in the Cold War, I've been in war on terrorism, you name it. Those funds were joined together by David Rockefeller with the Rockefeller Foundation, the Carnegie Foundation, and the Ford Foundation, and the CIA slush fund was used to fund the UN, the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission, and the Foreign Policy Council. And the fellow travelers would be people like Goldman Sachs, AIG, and others. And one of the first things they did was that they got a hold of the media, both here and in Europe. Maybe somebody else can pronounce it, so I know that the German chap who was the editor and what have you almost a year ago died of a heart attack at 56 or something. He was killed because he was giving testimony how the CIA controlled the media in Europe. There are a lot of Canadians here. I had a famous run-in with the Retired Canadian Officers Association down in Mexico. It was reported on by Interpol to the Mossad. And part of the issue that caused an uproar was when I was telling them that the Canadian media is completely subverted by the American media. And they're repeating all of the sound bites and punchlines that are phony. So these are the people who are telling the CIA what to do. I knew early on the CIA wasn't run by the head of the CIA, and it wasn't run by the President of the United States. The U.S. government's afraid of the media, and they're afraid of the CIA, and well, they should be. Okay? With the death of John J. McCone and David Rockefeller, and Nelson Rockefeller was involved, the issue is, well, who runs the U.S. side of the Trilateral Commission? Who took over? Now, Kissinger was dirty from day one, by the way. But Soros reports to the Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds ran the other side of the equation with the Rockefellers. Because this evolves over time as people die, and new players have to come on the stage. So what you have is not just the Kennedy assassination. You can immediately trace this to Robert Kennedy's assassination, which was not by Sarai and Sarai. Because at the day of the assassination of Jack, I'm calling the acting CIA director, McCone, right, is called by Bobby Kennedy. And Bobby Kennedy, and this I think is in the public domain, asked him, did they kill my brother? And he was alluding to not only the CIA, but the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States military, who were entirely complicit in this. Not only that, but they were pushing Kennedy hard to have a preemptive nuclear strike on Russia. They were also pushing him hard to go back and invade Cuba. And he thought they were nuts. Now let's go back in time a bit. Francis Gary Powers, it's you too. Let me tell you what that was really all about. I took care of Eisenhower's personal presentation shotguns. At the end of the war, all these heads of state were very grateful to him and respected him. They knew he was into upland game shooting. And they'd give him one-on-one presentation shotguns. It's my job to take care of those shotguns. When I wasn't getting a Brownian automatic rifle and walking around the woods, he did his shooting. And Khrushchev was in a passion to have the first meeting of détente. And if you read the Khrushchev papers, you'll see that Khrushchev very much wanted to, he was frightened to death of nuclear war. I was in a position where I was able to talk to going forward a few years, to then current chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Brown, and talk in confidence with him. And he told me and assured me that Russia actually thought it could win a thermonuclear exchange. And they weren't talking about Khrushchev, they were talking about the far-right military guys in Russia. And if they were hardened for ABC warfare, we were not, we're still not. And I know all about that. I got schooled in it in the presidential dictator. I would. So that situation was one where I've named in the book who was involved. These guys were fanatical. So what Jack did, without the knowledge of his entourage, he taped those sessions with the Joint Chiefs when they were making these recommendations. But what he didn't count on was when he left the room and the tapes kept going, and he listened to them, he found they then switched to talking about killing him. This was a coup d'etat. Now, when Bobby called McCone, McCone's answer was not what a couple of people have heard something leaked and repeated. He said, Bobby, this was a complete coup d'etat approved by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the CIA, and everyone else. And you cannot allow anybody in the Kennedy family to pursue finding out what happened for their own good. And Bobby did call a family meeting, and Jackie ran off and married Manassas and hid on the island, terrified. Who the hell wouldn't be? Yeah. Okay. And Lyndon Johnson was president, and I have all his phone logs. And he immediately started contacting all the people involved in conspiracy and doing what you might expect he would do at that time and place over the next few days after the assassination. Right? So, Bobby, when he decided to run for president, he knew he couldn't ask for Secret Service protection, because they're the ones that killed his brother. Yeah? And he knew he was violating what he had been warned about by McComb. He thought of as a friend. So he had Rosie Greer. So they killed him. I've been through all the autopsy reports, all the reports on Sirhan and Sirhan. There's no way in any court Sirhan could be convicted of killing Bobby Kennedy. In fact, you know, it was the wrong caliber weapon. He was about 15 feet in front of Kennedy. Probably the best pathologist in the country testified in that autopsy that the entry wound was 1.5 inches from the mastoid from the back of the head, and 2 people who were involved in the killing of his brother were present in that kitchen.
Oh, wow.
Okay. End of story. You don't need to know anymore because you know that they had to kill him. Can you imagine Bobby Kennedy, if he became president, what he'd do to those people? He had already torn up the mafia. They wouldn't last a week. He had to go. Martin Luther King and Bobby died within a month of each other, something like that. I was still in the Marine Corps. They wanted to make an officer and a fighter pilot out of me, and I was going to the University of Rhode Island, but I was working full time for Admiral Rickover, building and running his security forces for the nuclear fuels recovery program. 65 hours a week doing that while I was full time in college. Colt Firearms came to me, and they offered me 3 top jobs at Colt. I said, are you kidding me? After Martin Luther King and Bobby King was assassinated, you want me to think about a career with Colt? You're not even going to watch your business. Here, now I'm done. I was naive. Martin Luther King was going to endorse Bobby Kennedy for president. He was a Republican. And is there anybody here who really doesn't know that how much Hoover hated Martin Luther King? So he had to go. And clearly it wasn't Sirhan, but it did spray the wound in the other room. But there was somebody here talking about controlling people with different techniques as well. You know, the CIA seems to do nothing but go out with cockeyed medical stuff, some of which works. To get fast growth cancer, to simulate heart attacks. I mean, their signature is so obvious to me, I always know what the hell they're doing. There's no creativity there. Then let's move forward to Justice Scalia. Justice Scalia, okay, our friend Hillary Clinton. All the Clinton family and all the Bush family are dirty as hell. Narcotics, murder, you name it. I even know the signature killings in Arkansas if you cross the Clintons. Shotgun blast in the face when you answer your door. Something's knocking on. She was overtly, publicly endorsed by the Bilderbergers who contributed money to her campaign. The year of the campaign, in the primaries, do you remember the absolute certainty with which members of the media, all of which are controlled by the CIA, and